Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, the cannabis clown car continues. Also, Dems unify, and Governor Kay Ivey is all in on gaming.
Two pair, read 'em and read.
I'm out.
So that's it? No more takers?
She knows when to hold them, when to fold them. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by Susan Britt, research guru extraordinaire, and the one and only Josh Moon, investigative reporter and columnist at APR.
Is anybody else trying to claim the title?
Oh,
okay.
But they could.
That's right. They shouldn't.
Hey, they are tossing out so much red meat over at the State House. I've decided we need to call it the damn slaughterhouse.
No doubt about that.
It's just unreal. I have never seen so many red meat bills to try to screw over the people of Alabama in the first week.
Yeah. Well, they're doing a lot of things that are not traditional Republican. And so they need the cover of the red meat to be able to do the things that are not traditionally Republican.
I
That's
tell you,
true.
man, I
That's
felt like I
true.
needed a butcher's
Well,
coat
they're
over
famous
there.
for, look over here, folks, look over here while we do this over here.
One of the exciting things,
Mm-hmm.
especially for those of us who've been around a couple of years, is that we're finally have a governor
Mm-hmm.
and a Speaker of the House, and I suppose we have a President Pro Tem of the Senate, who are all backing a gaming bill. And this is historic. We haven't seen that in 25 years since something like this. And it's predicated on the fact that we already have gaming, that we need to legalize it where it's legal, and we need to make sure it's illegal where it's already illegal.
Right.
And get rid of it, to contract gaming rather than expand it. And Josh, you've written about the new bill extensively. Maybe you can give us an overview.
It's the new bill is kind of the same as the old bill, where they're going to legalize 10 casino locations around the state. They're going to legalize sports wagering, and they're going to implement a statewide lottery. That is, they would do so if the people choose to vote.
Right.
This bill is a constitutional amendment, and it only allows the people of the state of Alabama to vote on these things. And so but that's the plan going forward. And it also creates a commission that would have a law enforcement entity involved with it as well, that would regulate and control and audit and go through all the state to try to crack down on the thousands of illegal gaming operations that we have around here now. So yeah, you're right. It will actually probably end up reducing the amount of gaming that we have here, while taking some of the establishments that we have, the more legal establishments that we've had for a long time, Victoryland, Green Track, Mobile, and the Birmingham Race Course, and also the Porch Creek facilities, and bring them up. They're required to put in $35 million within the first year to build these facilities, and there'll also be locations in Lowndes County and in Houston County as well. And so we're going to build up these places and have these really nice resort style places. I know those
destinations.
Destinations. I know Victoryland. I know the Birmingham Race Course, and I know the Porch Creek facility that's going into the Northeast is going to look a lot like these other locations that we have around the state. Are going to be real nice with hotels and all sorts of entertainment opportunities for people.
And it does make Alabama more of a destination spot because there'll be entertainment. Hopefully we can in Birmingham get something like some major sports, at least some boxing.
That was real popular when we had it last time. It was
get something like that. And maybe even somebody like Taylor Swift might show up in Alabama.
Never know.
You know.
never know.
I know some excited girls that would be there,
certainly.
that live at my house.
I mean, I know that she's working for the CIA at the moment. But I think they'll let her come to Alabama.
It looks as though this bill is also going to move into taking away a legal misdemeanor and working towards felony.
Right.
Because a lot of these operations that are in the back of Flourish or the back of your, 7-Eleven, but they go in and they raid them and all of this. They get a $500 fine, go back home and open them right again.
Sure.
Because they're making more money than the fine for a misdemeanor. Right. So if you move that to a felony, that might have some teeth.
Well, I can't tell you how much my phone blew up when Governor Ivey in her State of the State said this was a priority to get done this year. And we have to give a lot of credit to Representative Andy Witt and to Nathaniel Ledbetter, who have championed this. I want to bring up a point, though. A couple of lawmakers, one of them had started this, and I don't have his name right off the tip of my tongue, but he came out and wrote a column and said, I am a yes in the State House to let the people vote. He said, but I'm a no, Josh, at the ballot box. In other words, he was very honest about it. People should have a right to vote, but he's going to vote against it.
Yeah, I mean, that has always been kind of the argument, I think, for most people here. And you saw the polling that came along with what they announced during a press conference on Wednesday, where they did this poll, and over 90% of the respondents said they wanted an opportunity to vote on it, and they believed that other Alabamians should have an opportunity to vote on it. And why wouldn't you? I mean, you put it out there, and if people don't want it, if it's bad for the state, vote it down.
And the accountant in me has to look at the fact that this is going to bring in to start with, $800 million to $1 billion a year to start with. That's before we get all these venues out there and get the new place in Northwest Alabama and have the entertainment venues. It's going to be a boon for the state economy.
And it's going to go to education and also to healthcare, road building, those types of things. I think one of the things I got most excited about was that it's going to provide scholarships, Josh, for 2-year colleges.
Yes.
And for people to go to technical training.
Yeah. That's a big thing. Tennessee right now currently has no tuition at their 2-year colleges for state residents, and I think that'll be a huge thing for Alabama. I'll say this. I was disappointed that we don't have something similar to the Georgia scholarships deal. I think those have lifted a lot of impoverished students up and given them an opportunity that for the first time in their families' life, generations, that they've been able to go to college. And I wish that somewhere along the way we could take a look at that and maybe include that in this bill some way, because I think it's just a fantastic way to transform the young people of the state.
Well, and I think in that, this is a baby step. At least if we get over this hurdle, then maybe we can move to more like the Hope Scholarship in future legislation.
I know we have people like Alpha that are fighting against it. We have people like the Alabama Policy Institute fighting against it. What I want to know is, if 72% basically Republicans want to vote on this issue, 90% of Alabamians want to, how come they don't trust the people?
Yeah.
It's
got to include some of their membership.
Yeah, it has to.
And listen, I've got the emails from some of their membership saying, listen, we like the Alpha insurance, but we would really appreciate it if they would stop this and let us vote,
Probably do like me and drop their Alpha insurance because I'm tired of giving those guys money to fight good ideas.
Yeah. Well, I understand that. It is something that's very important for the state, and I think that to push back against it at this point, it really is cutting off your nose to spite your face. We have it. We have it here, and we have it in a bunch.
Well, as Speaker Ledbetter has said, in the words of one of those old songs, it's now or never. So there you go. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back with more news and opinion.
It's time. Time we had someone in Congress fighting for us. As Democratic leader in the State House, Anthony Daniels helped steer millions of dollars into our district, fighting to raise wages, invest in our infrastructure, and create good jobs. Now he's passed a new law, removing state taxes on overtime pay, putting more money in our pockets. It's time for Anthony Daniels for Congress. One of us for all of us.
I'm Anthony Daniels, and I approve this message.
Your home is your most valuable asset. But what if someone tried to steal it from you? Property fraud is one of the fastest growing areas of fraud in the country today.
As a district attorney, I've seen firsthand the devastating effects of property fraud. That's why I'm proud to support the Montgomery County Probate Court's REACT program.
REACT is designed to protect your property and to give you peace of mind. By signing up, you'll receive an email notification if a document is filed against your property.
This program is a game changer. It has the potential to prevent fraud and protect countless homeowners throughout Montgomery County.
So don't wait. Sign up for REACT today and protect your home.
Protect your home with REACT. Sign up today.
Welcome back to the V, the voice of Alabama politics. Susan, Governor Ivey gave her State of the State this week or this past week, and it wasn't a barn burner, but she brought up a lot of great points that would improve the state of Alabama. Even Josh agreed with that before he turned around and said, and then she took it all away.
She did. Yeah.
But I think, and she does generally set an agenda that is followed by the legislature.
She does.
And I think some of the key points that she made on education and giving teachers raises. I mean, she wants the teachers of Alabama to be the best paid teachers in the Southeast. That's a big goal. And that's just some of it.
Well, I mean, ever since she's been elected, even when she took business place, we have not seen a State of the State where she didn't bring up teacher raises. She has brought it up everything. She is one of their biggest advocates, but also she's looking for more, education in other ways. We've got some of her plans on that. She's looking at workforce, being able to conquer that, more infrastructure, a lot of, public safety. And I think,
And Josh, there was a hint in there about the kind of things that we've talked about a bunch of times to help improve the quality of life for working folks. And that is like childcare and those types of things have been at least tangentially mentioned along with it.
Yeah, they have. They have been mentioned. I got to give credit to Lieutenant Governor Will Ainsworth for the study group that he put together that came up with some really, really great ideas for the state. I mean, listen, if you put those ideas on paper and you just work towards those things, there's not a person in this state, Republican, Democrat, conservative, liberal, that would have opposed any of those things.
Right.
Now,
and you took exception.
When you say that she's an advocate for public school teachers, I would hate for that to be my advocate. Where we're talking about right now taking $100 million out of public education, and we're going to grow that exponentially over the course of so many years as we go to this school choice nonsense that essentially leaves behind poor kids. And that's what we're doing. And we're going to leave behind poor kids, and there's just no other way around it because we're going to give a $7,000 tax break to these families, where the average cost of public or private education is over $8,000. And that doesn't include transportation. It doesn't include lunches. That doesn't include all the other fees and expenses that go along with that. All right, so they ain't going. Those kids aren't going unless they can play sports. But the rest of them aren't going.
Yeah, I mean, again, I thought that she made great points until the Hindenburg.
And I mean, she's supporting.
It's kind of like the play before Lincoln got shot. I mean, it was great up until that point.
I mean, she's supporting teachers as it stands in public schools now, not when we get to that. But I do agree with you on the school choice.
Well, I tell you, the crazy thing is, and we all agree at sometimes and disagree at other times. Governor Ivey will go down in Alabama history as being one of the best governors in the modern era. I mean, in the 20th and 21st century.
Because she doesn't play politics.
Well, she doesn't. She
has policies.
She doesn't. And that's a great thing. And I think Will Ainsworth is positioning himself to try to follow up her legacy and put his imprint on it. This whole lieutenant governor's workforce development, that whole thing that he's come up with, has some great policy ideas if they can get them done. That's always the question.
Yeah, sure.
Even
it's always
if they could just get some of them done.
It just seems so impossible that you couldn't get them done.
Right.
Because they're so popular.
Yeah.
They would be so popular with so many people. It would seem impossible that you couldn't get most of them done. And, listen, I don't disagree that Ivey's been a very popular governor. She has. I mean, it's a pretty low bar. You know what I mean? I mean, she followed Robert Bentley. For God's sake.
That's
you know
true.
what I mean?
That's true.
It just, I wish that there would be less going along with the red meat aspect of things at this point in her government, as being governor. And I just wish that she would take a stand on some of these things and fix the healthcare problems that we have, and fix the prisons. Stop saying that the prisons are hard. We know they're hard, all right? Running the correction system is supposed to be hard, you know?
Again, I'm going to say that, yes, it's a low bar. But even if you look back at Bob Riley and that crew, bunch of crooks, and you go back and further and further and further, she looks a whole lot better compared to what we've had. So, I mean,
she's never been one to try to pad her own pocketbook.
Yeah, when she no Fob James, I can tell you that, thank God.
Well, I'll say this. But if Bob Riley had left gambling alone, and passed the was Amendment 1.
Yeah, Amendment 1.
This would be a whole different state.
Well, I mean, Bob figured out after he got his butt kicked on Amendment 1 that he better toe the line of whoever was going to pad his pocket. And then he made himself rich and his family rich. And he decided not to govern, but to oversee an orgy of greed and corruption.
Absolutely.
But that's, that's kind of been Alabama's legacy.
Yeah.
Josh, you wrote about this week, and I had to sit there and read it 2 or 3 times at 5 o'clock in the morning because the Dems, you say, are united for diversity. I mean, how are the Dems united on anything?
Well, I don't know. I think it was a combination of threats from the outside, from the DNC, and I think it was from the folks working inside. I think a lot of people just kind of got tired of the fighting. And there had been a lot of work done. I don't want to minimize the work that's been done by a lot of people on the inside of this to kind of go back and get rid of those bylaws, basically, that they passed back in May that caused such an uproar, that did away with so many of the diversity caucuses that were there, and reinstate a lot of those caucuses except for the disability caucus, which I think will ultimately be reinstated as well. And I think it was a major step in the right way, so much so that Senator Doug Jones, who we all know has been on one side of this thing, and then Joe Reed and Randy Kelly and the other faction have been on the other side, and they've called Doug the George Wallace and all sorts of things. And he praised them for this. He praised them for coming out and doing the right thing, and I think that it's a major step for them in the right direction. And now, if we can get everybody on the same page and build the party forward and lift up those diversity caucuses and those people and those young folks especially, I think it's a good thing for the state.
Well, and I'm going to have to cut you off. Well, no, go ahead. You got time.
And if you cut out the diversity in a party, you're going to end up with MAGAs and the Democrats, and you don't want that. You've got to have diversities. We're
not going to have MAGAs in the Democrats.
Well, I
know
what I'm saying. You're going to end up with extremists only in the Democratic Party in the state of Alabama, which is not a good thing.
Right. Well, listen, our Democrats down here are like most sensible Republicans used to be back in the 80s. I mean, what we've got is a radicalized Republican Party because they have to follow dear leader. And I get that.
And because they've cut out all the diversity.
Yeah. Well, I mean, all white men and some women. I mean, what's more diverse?
It wasn't hard to cut it, I can tell you.
It wasn't. Anyway, I mean, I love our guys here, and I think the world of them. But I criticize them because it's a fact.
Right.
Anyway, you're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back.
Today, Montgomery is a safer city. It's time to shift the narrative and take control of our future. We're reopening community centers, remediating blight, and revitalizing neighborhoods across the city. And we're unleashing new opportunities. Over the past year, companies have invested a record-setting $2 billion in Montgomery and created 2,000 jobs. This is a new Montgomery. And together, we're reimagining the possibilities.
It's time we had someone in Congress fighting for us. As Democratic leader in the State House, Anthony Daniels helped steer millions of dollars into our district, fighting to raise wages, invest in our infrastructure, and create good jobs. Now he's passed a new law, removing state taxes on overtime pay, putting more money in our pockets. It's time for Anthony Daniels for Congress. One of us for all of us.
I'm Anthony Daniels, and I approve this message.
As a paramedic, you wouldn't believe the things that we've seen.
I've seen all types of horrible things.
I mean, we're there basically picking up the pieces from your worst day.
Everyone is just driving and not paying attention.
We all have the same goal. All of us want to go home alive and safe and harm nobody else in the process.
Slow down. Be careful. Care about the other people on the road. Don't be the reason that someone else doesn't go home tonight.
Welcome back to the V, the voice of Alabama politics. If you took a clown car, put it in a maze, set it on fire, it could not be more ridiculous than what is happening over at the Alabama Medical Cannabis Commission, Josh.
No, it's been that way. I think they designed it that way. They would be better off high.
They would be better off high. I mean,
they
have
can concentrate at least. Maybe.
They've now come out and they want to fight Judge Anderson's ruling that the commissioners, 6 of the commissioners, have to be, and the director, have to be deposed. And they've gone to the Court of Appeals, Civil Court of Appeals, and said, oh, no, we don't want to be deposed. No way.
The same question I keep asking is, why?
Yeah.
What are you hiding?
The questions, according to Judge Anderson, I've listened to a lot of the hearings that have gone on there, are going to be limited to what was discussed regarding the applications.
Yeah.
So this is a public body that's supposed to be deliberating in public. I know I sound like Ron White here. I'm in public, but I mean, this is I don't understand why can't we hear? I don't what I'm saying. I don't understand. They've obviously, this is the whole problem, is they tried to hide the deliberation. They tried to hide the reasons why they picked these people, these companies.
Yeah.
And the judge is saying, well, you've got to explain to these people, and you haven't done it publicly.
Yeah.
So now we're going to do depositions so we can determine whether or not you've done the right thing.
Yeah.
That seems pretty fair.
Yeah. And Susan, I mean, it's one of those things. The Civil Court of Appeals is not going to overturn Judge Anderson.
No.
I mean, if you look at statute, and you look at precedent, there have been cases that try to do the exact thing, and according to the Alabama Supreme Court, that is not the job of the Civil Court of Appeals.
No, it's not. And Judge Anderson, I tell you, he's not going to back down on this issue.
No.
And they're not going to challenge him. I'd be surprised if they did at all.
Well, so to kind of get into more of the weeds of it, what they're basically claiming here is that he shouldn't have ruled this way because the applicant companies have not exhausted all of their avenues, which is there's an appeal process that goes through the AMCC. And so they brought this up during the hearings in front of Judge Anderson, and he said, okay, well, look, if you're going to give them a hearing, then we'll hold off on all this. And not award the licenses, because once you award the licenses, it's over.
Right.
And they said, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to award the licenses. So he come in and said, well, then, okay, I'm going to put a stay on all this, and we're going to do the depositions and find out what's going on. And then the other part of that is whether or not they violated the Open Meetings Act. And he, in his hearings, determined under his judgment that they probably have. And he wants to hear more about this, and he thinks those depositions will aid him in doing that. There's no court in the world that's going to overturn that.
Yeah. I mean, I can tell you from somebody, and we all have done it, who used to cover city halls and county commissions and counties. They did violate the Open Meetings
Yes,
Act.
they did.
Of course
They
did.
absolutely
There's not
violated it.
Anybody who's ever covered this, even a county commission meeting, knows what the Open Meetings Act is, and that ain't it.
If you put down what the Open Meetings Act is and just let somebody read it and then told them what they did, they would say, yeah, man, they violated it. It's specifically what they say. You can't deliberate in private.
You don't
deliberated
have to have an attorney to figure that out.
No.
It's that simple. It's written. That's simple.
Actually, you have to have an attorney to figure out that you cannot do that.
Right, yeah. Or a judge.
Or how to get around it.
Or a
No,
judge
we didn't really
on
do
the
that.
commission.
I tell you what, though, these idiots, and I do mean that in the sincerest form of the term, who have said, well, we can't pass gaming because we'll have this same problem. No, you won't.
No.
Because there are a ton of lawyers in Montgomery that know gaming.
Yes.
You know, I mean, you got Charlotta Skaggs, who works for the state, who knows more about gaming than anybody in the world.
Yeah.
Yes.
And for Alabama gaming.
Yeah. I mean, really, the comparison here, honestly, like I've said before, if we're going to talk about one particular part of government failing and then we can't do other things, then we can't do any government here because we've got a lot of failure in government.
And listen, the Gaming Commission itself, it violates the Open Meetings Act.
Yeah, I mean, that's
crazy.
crazy.
This is not apples to apples.
Hey, I want to jump off here, and this will make some people uncomfortable, and I don't care. This is the way it is. You know, we look at campaign finance all the time, and when stuff comes up and it looks weird, we call the campaigns and say, hey, what's this weirdness all about? Well, so it turns out that Barry Moore, who's running for to challenge Jerry Carl in the 1st Congressional District, because he's been written out of the 2nd. So you got Republican going after Republican. They are both going negative. But so we were looking at it, Susan and I were looking at it, and he had about $40,000 he'd paid to this AAA storage place. And it struck us as weird. Number one, his cousin owns the storage place. And then the land belongs to, it appears, his parents.
Right.
So he spent about $38,000 and change on a storage unit, Susan, right?
Yeah.
Over the course of how long?
Well, it's kind of foggy there because the first payment of $20,000 was in 2020.
Yeah.
Now, they've contended that this is to store signs
Yes,
and
it
move
is.
signs and all that.
And
Well, if he was elected in 2020, where were the signs in 2021 and 2023? Because they didn't start paying for the storage unit until April of 2023.
Well, maybe that 20 grand covered the first year or something.
Yeah, I don't know. Hey, listen, it just seems like a lot of money. For storage of signs.
Where I get a little foggier here is, all right, in November 2023, you've got your $950 payment. Now, these storage units cost about $90. Right. He's paying $950 a month.
So it's 10. So he's got
10 units.
That's 10.
Okay, I can understand that. But then again, in November, he paid $2,828. And then in December, he cut 5 checks. In addition to his $950.
And I don't want to be fair here, that the campaign said that they build the signs, that his cousin's company builds the signs, they store the signs, they place the signs. And so that's the reason they spend the money. And as I pointed out to them, you could buy every billboard in the district for $40,000
So,
a year.
I mean, it seems like, to me, what is basically taking place here is that he has overpaid, not in the illegal sense, just paid more than what might be the average going rate for storage of signs and placement of signs and building of signs and that sort of campaign materials because it's his family.
Sure.
Listen, I think this probably happens. It's not his money; it's campaign money, and he's dishing it out to the family. And I don't think anything illegal has happened here, but it required the question.
Just show us the receipts.
Yeah.
It's that simple.
I mean, look, again, if we go through everybody's finance, we'll probably find something. And if we went through former President Donald Trump's PAC, we'd find that maybe he gave $2.5 million to Ivanka's lawyers or something.
Yeah, porn star maybe paid out.
But again, it might be like the Biden crime family. We just can't find all the crimes.
Exactly.
There's just too many, I'm sure.
It could be.
It could be.
And everybody just forgets. But, listen, I think you're right. I think it happens a lot. I think it's something that they needed to answer, and, they answered.
They did. All right. We're going to have to leave it right there. You've been watching the voice of Alabama politics. You watch us because we watch them.